From the Spec Network, this is Fragmented, an Android developer podcast where we talk about building good software and becoming better Android developers. I'm Donn Felker.
And I'm Kaushik Gopal.
Welcome to the show. This episode of Fragmented is brought to you by Bitrise. Bitrise helps you build and operate better apps faster by effortlessly combining the services and tools mobile developers love. They make development easier, more scalable, and take away the fear of change that causes development processes to stagnate. In 80% of the cases, Bitrise fully configures an initial workflow based on the contents of your repository. Automatically, Bitrise integrates with over 240 services, tools, and processes right out of the box. With minimal configuration required, it's great because instead of wasting valuable time on maintaining your automation workflows, developers can focus on building and improving the applications that they develop every single day. In short, Bitrise enables mobile development teams to scale quickly and efficiently. Half of all mobile unicorn startups use and continue to use Bitrise as they scale from small teams to billion-dollar enterprises. And onboarding and familiarizing new developers with Bitrise doesn't require help from a more veteran developer and a complete development team. Usually, they can be onboarded within a single release. Bitrise allows you to iterate and improve on your mobile development process like you'd iterate on the actual software that you're developing. You can build custom build bots, tools, integrations, etc. You can call the Bitrise API over numerous times throughout the day to enable development processes that are thought up by the smartest minds in app development. Now, don't just build better apps, build a better app development processes. Sign up for an exquisite pair of Bitrise branded socks. If you're interested, you can go to go.bitrise.io/fragmented. Again, that's go.bitrise.io/fragmented. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for joining us here on Fragmented. We've had a couple of weeks where we've been off. Kaushik and I have been both really busy with various different things. Android, some non-Android related, but today I'm back to talk to you very quickly to basically answer a question that Kaushik and I get continuously. And it's sort of an opinion that we both share. So let's go ahead and get right to it. That question that always pops up here is, I'm a new Android developer, or even an experienced one, and I'm wondering if I should learn Kotlin or if I should learn Java. And that's kind of the question that's kind of posed to us. Usually when folks are starting out, they're faced with this dilemma, dichotomy of, hey, there's two different languages I can use. One is a kind of an older one that's been around for a long time, which is Java. And then there's this new kid on the block, which is Kotlin. Which one should I use? Now, immediately, everybody's probably yelling at their dashboard of their car, or, if you're doing dishes or mowing the lawn or whatever, you're probably screaming, of course, learn Kotlin. I mean, it's the obvious answer. But you have to think, is it really the obvious answer? And I think that's where we have to take some time to do some introspection and think about what the best answer is to the question. So which one should you learn? And again, this is opinion-based, so you may or may not agree with me. And it's a fairly simple answer. And the answer is, again, whatever suits you the best. Now, there are some caveats with that. Let's say for whatever reason, you've been a back-end J2EE developer or whatever, you've been a back-end Java developer for your entire career, and you know Java like the back of your hand. And it's really easy for you to just hop in and be productive. It might be very useful for you to just stick with Java and be productive immediately inside of Android. Now, there's a caveat to that. And the caveat is a lot of stuff that Google is putting out now is Kotlin first, meaning that they will push Kotlin as the primary language for Android development. So a lot of the samples that you're going to see are going to be in Kotlin. A lot of the libraries you see are going to be in Kotlin. And so, of course, Kotlin does interop with Java very easily, and it's something that's built in right out of the box. So you won't have a problem calling these libraries or using them. However, you're not going to get the additional benefits of Kotlin, such as the various pieces of syntactic sugar, all the nice libraries and extensions, and all the stuff that you see inside of the samples that just make Kotlin code look so concise and clean and actually just quite fun to work with. However, that doesn't mean that you can't write Android applications in Java alone. There are many high-profile startups, I won't even call them startups anymore, high-profile companies that strictly use Java only for various different internal reasons and have not migrated to Kotlin yet, or have a small subset of Kotlin in their app, and the majority of it is still Java. So it goes without saying that Java is a very, very valid choice if you would like to start building Android applications, or if you're transitioning from maybe a back-end developer perspective into a front-end Android client development perspective. So yes, in that case, go ahead and stick with Java, see if it works. Now, I would, at the same time, also advocate that you start learning Kotlin, though. And the reason for this is, it goes back to the caveats. Google is pushing Kotlin first for Android. So anything that you see in Android is going to be Kotlin. So the quicker that you can learn about it, the more benefits you're going to get. Some of the pushback that I have received in regards to having lifelong Java developers learning Kotlin is that, let's take the collection stuff, for example. They might say, well, we have very similar operators, and we have Lambda expressions, and we have all these things that looks like what Kotlin already has, in the newer versions of Java. And that's kind of where we have to put the brakes on. And we say, well, I understand that, but we're on Android. We don't have new versions of Java. Our Java version is very old, and we're kind of held back by that perspective. It's a very old version of Java. We're not on Java 10, 12, whatever heck it's on now. I've lost count. And the reason why I say that is because I do write Kotlin all the time. But to kind of loop this back, if your argument is, and you're a Java developer, that the new versions of Java have all the features that you need that Kotlin is supposedly pushing, well, again, remember, you can't use that new version of Java. So you're kind of left with an old version of Java. Now, that doesn't mean that it's bad. A lot of the applications that I've written, 2 of which are still maintaining in the top 100 free category half the time, are written in Java, or were written in Java. I don't know if they've changed over to Kotlin. They probably have, but it's stuff that was written in Java. There's nothing wrong with it. It works. If you look on Stack Overflow and you look at the career sites, you're going to see Java at the top of the pedestal for a lot of in-demand jobs. And of course, JavaScript's going to be up there. You're going to see some Python, but Java is going to be up there. Now, I don't know if those reports are including Kotlin into that Java perspective, because it's both a JVM-based language. So I don't know, but it's something to take into consideration, to not discount Java, even though, again, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a very valid choice. Okay, now let's kind of flip the coin here. Let's talk about Kotlin for a minute. You're starting out, you're a new developer, you're learning Android, you love mobile apps, and you're developing your own app for the first time. Maybe you're in college, maybe you just got your first job, or maybe you've joined a new company and everything's in really old Java and you don't like it and you want to move to Kotlin. That's a very valid choice. So what about Kotlin? Is it easy to learn? Yeah, it's just as easy to learn as any other language. And in fact, I'd probably say it's a little bit easier to learn just because it feels more modern. Some of the decisions just kind of make sense. There's a lot of decisions that are made inside of Kotlin that help you write better code. And one of the things that people hear all the time is that, well, I'm going to write in Kotlin because I won't get null pointer exceptions. Immediately, what you need to do is put on the brakes and just stop that thought. Kotlin does not stop you from getting null pointer exceptions, not whatsoever. Kotlin just makes you think about it. With Java, you might just have a string and you can, or just a type, and you can set some values and forget to check if it's null. Random things could blow up from a null pointer exception, which, if you've been around Android enough, that's probably your number one crash statistic, is probably a null pointer exception. Now in Kotlin, by default, it's recommended that, everything is not null. You have to specify, hey, I want this to be null. And then the compiler will not allow you to compile the code unless you are checking for the nulls. Say, hey, if you're chaining a call together on an object graph, so hey, I want the customers.orders.first. Order amount. If one of those items in there is nullable, you need to check it. Kotlin's going to make you check that before it will compile. So it makes you think about all of these weird random situations you're going to get yourself into. And what that does is it ends up creating more resilient code. And as long as you're not putting the double bang operator in Kotlin, which is basically says, hey, Kotlin, I know what I'm doing. Just ignore this. You're going to be all right. Now, if you do find yourself putting that double bang inside of your code, you should immediately stop and think about, why am I doing this? And is there a better way to do this? I typically consider the double bang operator in any production code to be a code smell. The only place that I'll use the double bang operator is inside test code, when I know that there's particular test value or this test data is going to be there because I've set it up as part of the testing infrastructure. Now, if it's in production code inside of part of the app that runs in a screen, that's a no-go for me. That will get called out in a PR from me, my teammates. Anybody will say, hey, that's not allowed. And then we'll have to figure out a better way to do that. Is there a way to use a null safety check? Is there anything like that we can do? So Kotlin doesn't protect you from null pointer exceptions. It just makes you think about them. Now, one of the great things about Kotlin is there's a bunch of different stuff that if you've come from another language such as Ruby or C#, you're going to see some things in this language that are very familiar to you. You're like, oh, that was in Ruby. And oh, that little language feature, that was in C#. And it might be a little bit different, such as extension functions. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I remember using those in C#. And then there's various different constructs inside of Kotlin where I can kind of do question mark, dot, kind of for the safe null check. We had something like that in Ruby. And you're going to see all these different language features. And what it seems like, and I can't validate this, but what it seems like is that the designers of the Kotlin language looked at all the languages that are out there and said, what are the best parts that we like about all of them? Well, I like this from this language is very cool. And this other piece from this other language is really cool. And this over here is great. And this piece could just be cleaned up a little bit. And they kind of put it together and they created Kotlin. And it continually improves time and time again. And that's one of the benefits about Kotlin. I feel like I'm getting the best of like all of the different languages across the board. So if you're thinking about starting out with Kotlin, that's fantastic. You're going to get a great breadth of knowledge. And there's other libraries out there such as Arrow and other libraries too that help you with functional concepts that you can start using. And the language just allows you to do a lot of cool things like build domain-specific languages. You can build like little robot patterns. You can just do all kinds of cool stuff with the language. There's, of course, the null stuff that's built in. We could go on and on and on. And there's a bunch of episodes here on Fragmented about Kotlin. So definitely check them out. But again, just like the previous section, there are caveats. What are those caveats? Well, pretty simple. If you're writing Kotlin code, you need to know at least how to read Java code and what it's doing. Because most likely, at some point, you're going to come across some Java code. And you're going to need to know what it does and how it operates. So this kind of gets into the weird situation of, well, you can know Kotlin, but you kind of need to know Java too. Because they both run on the JVM. And at some point, you're going to run into a situation where you're calling a library that's only written in Java. You go to the definition, it pulls down the source from Maven or wherever, and shows it to you inside the IDE. And you're looking at it, you're like, wow, this is Java. I have no idea what the hell this is doing. If that's the case, you're going to be in trouble. So you do need to understand what Java looks like, how it works, and some of the things that it's doing. Now, you may have not been able to write that Java code, but you need to know what it's doing and how it's doing it. And it's very often, too, that you might look up something on the internet saying, I need to do X, Y, and Z with Kotlin, and you Google it, and all of a sudden you land on Stack Overflow or a random blog, and it shows you how to do this thing, but for some reason it's in Java. That's just how it is. Maybe you search for something, blah, 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 in Android, and it shows exactly what you need, but it's in Java. A couple of things. You are going to need to either A, know how to transfer that and change that into Kotlin, or if you're using the IDE, often you can copy and paste Java code directly into the IDE like Android Studio or IntelliJ, and it will recognize if you're pasting into a Kotlin file and if you're pasting Java into a Kotlin file. It'll say, hey, looks like this is Java. Would you like us to kind of try to map this into what the Kotlin equivalent would be? You can click yeah, and it will kind of create some decent Kotlin. Not great. A lot of times it has a lot of nulls and stuff like that in it because it doesn't know what you should do. So it's saying, hey, here's all the stuff that could be null. And again, it's going to leave you up to that decision to think about what to do with nulls and stuff like that. And it's very often that the code that it creates for you and generates is not perfect. So you want to get back in there and kind of clean it up. But again, to do that, you'll need to know Java. Furthermore, you also need to interop with old Java code that's lying around. it's very possible that your company uses libraries that are written completely in Java, either internally or from an external source. So you'll need to know that if I'm using an HTTP library that's, a weird custom one-off one, or a binary library to process, camera frames, you might need to know how to do that. If it's written in Java completely, well, you'll have to kind of say, all right, well, if that's going to be calling a list, how does that look in Kotlin? Okay, you might be reading sample documentation. It's all in Java. You need to know how to write that in Kotlin. Again, copy paste if you can, modify from there if you will. So does that mean that you can't start with Kotlin? No, it doesn't mean that, but it just means that sometimes you're going to encounter a period where you have to read Java. So you kind of need to know both. So what do I recommend? Personally, I find my life to be much happier when I'm writing Kotlin. The language, in my opinion, is great. It's fantastic. I enjoy writing Kotlin. I enjoy sitting down to write it. I'm never frustrated by Kotlin. In fact, I'm constantly surprised by Kotlin and all of the things that I don't know that it has yet, and that I consistently run across. I try to read Kotlin code when I can from sample libraries or something like that, and I'm always bound to learn something. There's just so much out there to consume. And I really feel like I've just scratched the surface. And even though I've been doing it for multiple years now. So if I was you, I would definitely take a look at Kotlin if you are starting off with Android development. However, on the flip side of the coin, if you are a seasoned Java developer and that really has no interest for you and you just want to build an app for whatever reason, then no worries. Write the app in Java. That's fine too. Just whatever works for you. One of the key things I always harp on here on the show is that it doesn't matter what your application's written in. It doesn't matter what your tests look like. It doesn't matter any of that, because what ends up at the end of the day mattering the most is your application works. Your end users don't care that your application's written in Java. They don't care it's written in Kotlin. They don't care that it's written in JavaScript or whatever. They don't care if it's written with Xamarin or anything like that, or Flutter. They don't care. They care that your application solves a problem for them, a pain point, provides value to them. And so whatever language you decide to write that in, go ahead and use that language. Lastly, I'll leave you with this tip. I like to ask myself, am I enjoying what I'm doing? There's two questions I do to do that, kind of. One is, what gives me life? And then the other one is, what takes away life? And you can apply that to programming too. Sometimes when I was writing Java, I felt like it was taking life away from me. I was very frustrated with it. I felt like it was archaic. And it just wasn't for me. I didn't like it. Some people love it. That's fine. However, when I start writing Kotlin, I feel like it gives me life. I feel like I'm happier. I feel like it's something I want to do. And so to me, just the answer to that question, which one gives me life, which one takes away life, points me to the direction in which I would rather go. And for me, that's Kotlin. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be your situation, but it's something that you should definitely consider. I look forward to you writing your apps. And when you do, please send us a message here on Fragmented, either through our Twitter handle, which is FragmentedCast, or through our contact page. And once again, everybody, we really appreciate you listening. We've been around for over 170 episodes at this point in time. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode. We'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Bitrise. Bitrise helps you scale and build and operate better apps faster. You can integrate with all different types of tools, over 240 different services right out of the box, minimal configuration required. Bitrise is used by huge unicorn companies, from small teams all the way up to the billions of users all over the place. Don't just build better apps, build a better app development process with Bitrise. If you're interested, you can sign up at go.bitrise.io/fragmented. Again, that's go.bitrise.io/fragmented, and you'll get an exquisite pair of Bitrise branded socks. Thanks, Bitwise.
That's it for the show, folks. Fragmented is hosted by Donn and me, Kaushik Gopal. We edit and produce all the episodes here on Fragmented. Sarah the Amazing Jackson from the Spec Network helps with production assistance and wraps our final mix. Our theme and ad music is by the national recording artist Blueprint from Weightless Recordings. You can find more Fragmented episodes at fragmentedpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you in the next episode.